Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Mitchell's Logistics Corner, where we bring you real-time information of what's going on in today's logistics market. So hey guys, what an amazing start to 2022. So many exciting things happening in the logistics industry that it's actually comical. And we are going to bring a lot of that to you in this episode. So let's start real quick with ocean freight rates. So as you guys know, the ocean freight rates have been all over the place, from contract rates being anywhere between $4,000 to $5,000 a TEU, all the way up to the spot market to going people paying up to $40,000 a TEU. So as you guys have been following me through this last year, you guys have seen the changes. So the crazy changes in the rates. So here's a bit of an update of what's going on today in the market. So so Asia to United States West Coast is paying about $15,000 to $17,000 in FEU. Now, keep in mind, that's still 183% higher than it was last year during this current time. Now, from Asia to the United States East Coast, they're about 17,000 to about 18,000. But keep in mind that is still an increase of 203% over last year during this current time. What is this saying, guys? Listen, the steamship lines are not slowing down at all. They are going straight for the jugular, and they're just completely going to keep continuously price gouging on the spot market. All right, so a quick little update on what's going on over at the major ports. Port of Los Angeles and LA got great news. A report shows that in January, the vessels that are waiting out in the port in the bay are actually down 30%. To less than about 80 vessels. So that's pretty good. That doesn't mean that there's still no problems at the port, because it is still a complete cluster mess. So equipment issues, I'll talk also a little bit more further down later in this post. But it's incredible what's going on over at the port, where now truckers are going to start getting fined for not coming in on time for their schedule. It's complete mess, but stay here with us and stay here with me, and I'll tell you a little bit more a little further down the line. So still chassis issues. Now let's go over to the Port of Savannah. The Port of Savannah is actually pretty good. The only issue is chassis. We don't have enough chassis. So guys, if you have issues with chassis, or if you have issues at the Port of Savannah, I really suggest you guys look at other ports to go to try to getting your freight out a little bit quicker, maybe like the Port of Houston. So that makes me jump into the Port of Houston now. So the Port of Houston's actually not bad. It's moving. So they moved up, they opened up an extra container yard a little bit further down on the south end of the port. That's actually working to bring out a little bit of this congestion, but still, there's poor communication at some of these really quick port, like pop-up yards, because there's no technology, and Houston's one of them. Also, chassis, man. Chassis is a complete disaster. So if you don't have chassis, and what some truckers are doing is keeping the chassis because they don't want to give them back. Because if they give them back, they don't know if they're ever going to be able to pull another container. And what's making it even more interesting is when they're trying to return containers empties, the ports are actually having them keep their chassis. And that's causing a big issue. So a lot of these truckers are using those containers, those empty returns, for turns on the road to use them for export. So that's a little bit of something, a little update there. Port of New York, pretty good. Still the same problem we're having everywhere. Chassis issues, driver shortage issues. So a lot of stuff going on. Chicago Rail is actually doing pretty well. So if you got containers coming into Chicago, they're actually moving very well. We still do have a little bit of a chassis issue, but all in all, things are seeming to move. All right, guys. Now let's talk about some stuff that I've been posting on LinkedIn that has been getting quite a bit of attention. Now, if you guys have been watching or following any of my posts, I've been talking quite a bit about some of the things that Maersk is doing in today's logistics market. Personally, and again, this is just my opinion, I think Maersk is not really helping supply chain, but I believe they're really part of the disruptors. And not only that, but I truly do believe that some of these people at this Maersk company are really causing some major issues here in the United States that I've been talking about for months, which is called inflation. This is what they're doing. Now, you guys can say that I'm completely off my rocker and that there is no way that a steamship line could increase or cause inflation here in the United States. Well, let me tell you something. When a shipper or a manufacturing company is moving a container overseas or trying to bring product into the United States, before the pandemic, the rates for these containers that they were importing were $2,000 to $4,000, maybe $5,000 for an imported container. Today, as you could see in the spot rate market, you could pay anywhere north of $15 to $20 to $30,000. There's absolutely no control. And what these steamship lines do is they have these contract rates, which is about 50% of their business. And then the other 50% of their business, which is you guys, they just totally nail you and just completely price gouge you. Now, don't believe me. I'm going to let you hear it directly from the CEO of Maersk from an interview. Now, keep in mind, this interview was from last year. So I'm going to play a few clips. I'm going to play a little bit of this clip. I will also post a link below. And then I will then follow up with another video that he posted just yesterday speaking about all of Maersk's earnings. So let's start with that. All right, let's see what we got going here. All right. So. Okay. So now this was an interview that they had a year ago when he was talking about how the earnings was and how it was that they had such great profits. So I'm going to let you guys hear this and then we can kind of discuss it afterwards. But here we go.
Is it that you managed to produce new guidance today that is better than the guidance you had to withdraw earlier on in the year? What is it that's gone well?
What is it that's gone well?
Well, our business has been negatively impacted significantly by the coronavirus on our volumes. They were down 14, 15, 16% in the second quarter. But
volumes were down, okay, in the third quarter, second to third quarter. Now listen to what they do. Listen to this.
We're up. We've done really well on the cost side. Our prices are slightly higher. We have been doing a really good job in terms of
their prices are slightly higher. Now, keep in mind, this was last year. Slightly higher. Are you allowed to drink on the job in Denmark?
The network to the capacity actually.
This is even more
so
interesting.
That's driving the higher earnings.
So that's why the higher guidance. What kind of visibility? You've given this guidance then, so I expect you have some visibility. How
he has all the visibility.
Or how good is your visibility for the rest of the year and into next?
Well, we are halfway through the third quarter. We've seen sequential improvement in trade volumes since April. April was the worst month.
Make up your mind. You don't have volumes. You have volumes.
And since then, we have improved, and we expect in the third quarter that global trade will be down year on year in mid single digits. So a continued improvement in volumes combined with low cost and low fuel prices. And slightly higher prices means that we can guide between 6 and 7 billion of operating earnings.
Now, if anyone can explain what he just said, so he's going to cut costs, cut capacity, and that is how he's going to. That's how we got these $6 billion in earnings.
So improved volumes, but not normalized, Søren. What expectation do you have for when volumes will normalize?
This one's great.
Back up to 2019 levels, I suppose, I mean.
Well, our basic scenario have been for quite a while now that we will see a U-shaped recovery, meaning that we will be back to 2019 volumes sometimes in the early part of 2021.
The early part of 2021. How off was he?
You've been successful on cost. What is it, Søren, you've managed to do to bring costs down?
This is the best part.
Well, like most companies, we have benefited, of course, from less travel expenses and entertainment bills. But the big
less travel expenses and entertainment bills was the first thing that came out of his mouth. Where are they traveling to? Well, now that they're making $6 billion, why even question it? Wow. And he laughs about it.
Amounts are really on the fuel prices. It's on our network cost. We operate 700 ships.
Listen carefully.
We have cut down on the network, on the capacity that we deploy. So
they've cut down on the capacity that they deploy. That was last year. And now you're asking why we're having an issue? Oh, my God.
We are saving money on ships. And then in general, all of our operating costs, of course, going into the crisis, not knowing what would happen, we accelerated all of the cost-saving initiatives we already, if you will, had in
so
the
they
floor.
Accelerated.
So it's pretty cost across.
Cut everything just really quickly. But this is still my
Freight rates
favorite
have
part
been
of this
going
interview.
up,
This
but
is my favorite part.
some of your
Because they
business,
won't
I
ask
suppose,
the
operates on
question.
contracts that were signed at different times.
Here we
So
go.
how much have you been able to benefit from those freight rates rising?
How much can you benefit?
Well, about half of our volumes are long-term contract volumes, so annual contracts for the most part. There, of course, the freight
those
rates are what
contracts.
the freight rates are.
It is what it is.
Our spot volumes, where we benefit from
Spot
higher
volumes.
freight rates when they go.
Yes, so that's exactly what he said. So 50% of their contract rates were on their vessels that they were moving, and the other 50% was spot rate. So they knew that they were totally getting hosed by some of these larger forwarders with these huge TU contracts, but it doesn't matter because he screwed everyone else that didn't have contracts, and that's the ones that paid all this money. This is incredible. Now, keep in mind, that was last year. Now, knowing that this was just last year, and it was the second year into the pandemic, by them reducing costs, they took out, I think he just said 20% of their capacity. And you're asking why we're having issues now? Holy cow. Well, anyways, so keep in mind, that was just from last year. Okay. And that was a year into the pandemic. And he clearly admits that he's taking out capacity to reduce costs. Fuel costs were really low. And that's how he justified, and also no traveling. But that justified the $6 billion earning. This is completely ridiculous, people. This is completely ridiculous. Now, just yesterday, he did come out and speak about the earnings that he had in 2021 and the predictions for 2022. And I'd like to share that with you guys. And now you guys can make your own judgment and opinion about what he's trying to say, but I'll try to give you what my opinion is on what he was saying. So let's see what we got here.
Start with the guidance or the expectation you have for 2022, underlying EBITDA of about $24 billion.
That would be EBITDA.
That seems to be a little light compared to what was the consensus on the Bloomberg terminal, which was $28 billion. What are you trying to communicate with this new guidance today?
Well, we are guiding in an environment where we're coming out of a pandemic, and we don't have much experience with that, to be honest.
That's right. They have no experience. Actually, not even saying that they don't have any. Zero. None. But what they do have experience in is causing inflation. That they're very good at, because for them, it's all about profits. But again, that's my opinion. Let's see what else he says. Brilliant, man. What brilliant.
So basically what we are saying, we expect quite a strong first half of 2022, and then we expect what we call a normalization in the second half. That's what will give us a result which is very similar to the one that we had last year, which was record breaking in every dimension.
Okay, so let me kind of paraphrase that for you. Okay, so in this dimension, okay, because I guess once you make billions, you're in multiple dimensions. What he's trying to tell you here is that the record profits that you saw last year are nothing compared to what you're going to be seeing this year, which means that rates are going to be continuing to go up. Now, what I assume is that they're going to be now less contract rates because they're going around the forwarder and negotiating with the manufacturers directly. So they have a little bit more to play with. But hold on. Let's finish and see what else he has to say. Brilliant.
Søren, good morning. In the context that you raise your 2021 EBITDA outlook four times during the year, can we again assume you're adopting the same tactic of being extremely conservative, and that's how we should look at this forecast?
Extremely conservative.
Well, I mean, we are trying to guide as best as we possibly can, not to be optimistic or pessimistic. We do not have much visibility, but
they have no visibility, people. None. This guy has no visibility. How would he know? Maybe the chart that's right next to him. I don't know. This chart right over here, guy. See this chart? It's right next to you. I don't know how much more visibility you see. You can obviously tell that you're destroying the market for no reason and causing inflation. Guys, there's no possible way that a manufacturing company, again, can sustain 500 to 600 times X what they were paying before. That's why it's causing inflation too, because we are also the largest consumer of goods on earth. But anyways, off my high horse, let the brilliant man speak again.
To what will happen when, if you will, people return to work, when bottlenecks open up, and a lot of the capacity that is tied up, for instance, today in Los Angeles and Long Beach, where more than 88 ships, are sitting waiting to discharge. When all that gets released, then how's that going to work out? We'll have to see.
Start with the.
Do you know how it's going to work out and how you're going to see? I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a quick insight about what Maersk does. Obviously, just a year ago, he's saying that he's pulling capacity to reduce costs and increase profits, right? And less travel, right? But I also want you guys to understand that Maersk leases vessels to these big companies like Amazon and Walmart and Home Depot. These vessels come into the port of Los Angeles and take weeks, sometimes months to unload. And they don't really care because it's their vessel. That's what's causing a lot of this traffic. Okay, so he is fully aware of it. Now, if he knew a year ago, in a year one into the pandemic, okay, that we were going to need more because consumers were purchasing more, why would you take out like 20% of your vessels? Was that for chartering purposes so that you can start giving them away? Like, I don't get it. So this is a prime example of how a steamship line is destroying the market. Now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to come into the domestic part of logistics. And that's where I have a problem, because what these carriers do is they're making so much money on their ocean containers that if they start offering the local P&Ds, they can literally do it at a loss, everything at a loss, and it'll destroy the entire US market. And they're very aware of that. They've actually approached, or there's been rumored that they've approached C.H. Robinson, and C.H. Robinson said no. But now Pilot Air Freight, for 1.6, 1.7 billion, they'll jump on it because I don't even think they're worth that. But they wanted to have a footprint in the domestic arena. So let's see how they destroy that. Now, if you really Maersk want to help supply chain, if you guys really want to help supply chain, I'm going to tell you how you can help Maersk. Here's 3 things you can do, Maersk. 3 things. 1, get back and build chassis. Instead of building so many containers, why don't you help build chassis? Steamship lines used to be in that market, in the chassis and delivering containers, but they saw that it's too much money and they were losing too much. Well, now they're making billions. So you want to help? Start making chassis, stop making containers. That's number 1. Number 2, why don't you try communicating with the ports better? Because the communication is terrible. Okay. That's by far one of the worst things you guys do. Okay. You guys don't communicate with the ports. The ILA is overworked. There's not enough truckers. You know that, and you continue to play your games. Stop doing it. Right. And the third most important point that I want to make here of how you can help Maersk is to reduce the rates to at least $10,000 or below. At $20,000 a TEU does not make any sense. My question to you, Maersk, is how do you justify, or how do you come up with pricing, or how do you justify the price of a container going from $30,000 to $20,000 in less than a year? That is a simple question that you cannot answer, and you won't answer. But I do ask anyone that watches this video, send it to Maersk. Let's get Maersk to answer real questions, not these softball questions where they don't answer anything and saying that they reduce costs because they have less entertainment and travel expenses. Guys, this is a complete joke. And I'm going to end this here. One thing that I did have one of my sources tell me was Maersk is now also representing customers in the air freight side and going to forwarders. Now Maersk is going to forwarders and requesting pricing for charters. That's right. And now they get to choose the forwarder for the manufacturer. This is poor business practices. Absolutely poor business practices. Maersk, you should be ashamed. All right, guys. Hashtag stop Maersk. Please push it around. And hopefully you guys keep following us and continue to support us on the H2O videos. They have been doing really good. I've also posted a link below to go directly to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe, follow us, follow me so I can give you more information of what's going on in today's logistics market. More videos. I will try, but with my schedule, it's been crazy. But thank you again for all your support. Thanks. Take care.